The biggest question that I get a lot of big questions, but one of the biggest questions that I get is, concerning the Acolyte. And you have a lot of people on YouTube and all over the internet, TikTok, Instagram, who are throwing in their 2 cents and basically just bashing this television show. And rightfully so. It's horrible. It's bad. It's just not good. It's just not. I don't know what to tell you. And people are always asking, well, if you don't like it so much, then why? I can't speak for anyone else. I can only speak for me. And this is what I can tell you. I review films. Now, I don't typically review television shows. I'm not a television girly. I'm not one to sit down and watch a television show. Honestly, I don't have the attention span for it right now. But I love to go to the movies and I see everything. I don't just go to the movies and see the things that I really want to see, but I also see as much as I can. So that means even the movies that I'm just not all that interested in seeing, and even the movies that are just straight terrible. And this is what I can tell you, being someone that analyzes and breaks down film, and I imagine it's the same for those who break down and analyze television, and even those who are in more specific niches, especially within the Star Wars universe, because there's so much content to go through. The most fun that you can have when it comes to analyzing stuff are it's the products that are really, really good and the products that are really, really bad. The mid ones, yeah, that's cool and whatnot. But if it's really good, it's so much fun to break down. If it's really bad, it's even more fun because the mistakes are just so blaring and so in your face. And that's what the Acolyte is. There's just so much to pick apart that's just in your face and obvious that the critical analysis of it all is just that much more fun. It is. It was like, you have fun hating on a show. No, I have fun just breaking it down and talking about all the itty bitty pieces. That's what's fun. I mean, for those of us who do this, either for professionally or on our spare time or as a hobby, film analysis, television analysis, art criticism in general, there's just something fun about breaking down the stuff that doesn't work. I don't know how to make that make sense, but for those who are wondering, why are people hate bashing it? Why are people hate watching it? Because the analysis at the end is the reward. It really is. Here's the thing. I go into these episodes as open-minded as possible, as, clear-minded as I can. I try not to have any expectations or assumptions because really it's really hard to have any assumptions about this show because it's so inconsistent and just so I don't want to say non-linear, but what's the word? There's no connective tissue. It's so episodic, and that's crazy because it's each episode, right? But even when you have like a non-procedural television show, think of like Heroes or like A Pretty Little Liars, that's my favorite TV show, or Lost, where even though you have individual episodes, it's still very much linear. It's still one continuous storyline. I've never seen a television show so episodic, but each episode is just so disconnected from the one before, and not just because there's a break in the story. I mean, you have episodes like 4 and 5 where they really pick up where the other left off, and even 5 and 6, but it's just so tonally inconsistent. It's almost like we're watching a completely different story, and at times we are watching a completely different story because they're adding in these details and not flushing out all the previous ones. It's like opening a door without closing the one behind you. Like, it's like, what am I going to say? It's like entering into a room and through an open door and then neglecting to close the door behind you. That's what I mean. It's like that. We get all these details, they put them in our face, they don't flesh them out, they don't develop them properly, they don't give us a foundation. It's almost like they expect us to build that in our imagination and go from there. Like, I'm not getting paid to write this. You are. You should have all of this in my face and I should be entertained. That's how this works. I pay you $13.99 a month to be entertained. I expect quality. We're not getting that. Instead, what they do is they put these little nuggets out there, these little Easter eggs out here, and they don't do anything with it. They kind of leave it alone. They don't develop it properly, and then they move on to the next thing. Like, there's so much unresolved with Osha and May in terms of character development, and yet they've introduced this new character to us, Quymere. But I'm getting off topic. We are on episode 7, and honestly, there's no point in talking about episode 7. If you heard about episode 3, you heard about episode 7. The only difference here is what happened on Bryndock. We now get the Jedi perspective on what happened to the witches, what actually happened. And it's supposed to be this big bad thing, right? They've been leading up to this big cover up, this bad thing that happened on this planet, you know, that once Osha and May find out, it's going to turn everything upside down, anyways. Well, we get to the big reveal and we basically get 40% of episode 3. When I say 40%, I don't just mean the same ideas, the same tone. I mean literally frame for frame some of the same footage, so to speak, of the show. And then we get some new stuff where it's the same scenes but from a different perspective. So we get to see the fire starting from May's perspective. So as it turns out, the fire starting was an accident. Which I don't think there was any point in really telling us this, because again, we don't really have a properly developed, fleshed out May. And it seems like their relationship as sisters that fire didn't affect anything anyway. They were already kind of at odds before that happened because they are so different. So we did learn that. We also learned that Mama Coral, who's the white mama of the twins, the one who carried them, she's the one that instigated a lot. But I mean, that was also pointless because nothing really came of that. There was no point in really showing us this big bad mama scene where she's like, get mad and, you know, trying to get May to do awful things when that never really comes about. And we never see this woman again. And honestly, she's just so forgettable. She would be even more forgettable if she didn't look so crazy. And what else happened in this episode? So we find out that the twins may not actually be twins, but they may be one person just kind of split in half. That there was such a divergence in the Force that it just split personalities and created two separate individuals. God gagged me with the spoon. And then there's a Wookiee with a metal detector, and then you have Corbin, who was basically the Star Wars version of Connor, who is just such a brat, who's like, he just wants to go home. He just wants to go back to Coruscant. When can we go home? Why are we here? Like, we're on mission. Like, can we just go? Like, he's such a freaking brat. So if you remember in episode 3 where the Jedi confront the witches, and the witches kind of have him in this like mental chokehold, and they get and squirrel in his mind, we actually see what happens in his mind. And what happens in his mind is that Mama Anastasia, the black mama witch, gets into his head and basically pokes at that vulnerable spot, his desire to go home, and just agitates it. And this is the crazy part to me, right? So we are supposed to hear about this big bad thing that was done to the witches and how awful this thing is. I don't know. Are we supposed to have sympathy here? Are we supposed to feel bad? It's just, the problem is that the storytelling and their messaging and the agenda pushing is just all kind of sort of intertwined. And because they're so heavy-handed with the direction, they're so heavy-handed with the writing. And when I say heavy-handed, I mean they don't trust us, the audience, to make up our own mind or to have our own opinion or perspective. They are so hell-bent on making sure we feel a certain way about these characters that they would just sacrifice the story in favor of the ideology. And that's kind of where we are. So that's why I have to ask, what are we supposed to be feeling for these witches? Because if that's what happened, because what happened is that they squirrel around in Torben's brain. So all Torben can think about is going home. And then they find this moment where it looks like the witches are doing dastardly evil things concerning these children, and they have to go rescue them. And Torben's like, this is our ticket back to Coruscant. This is our ticket home. So he gets on this motorbike speed thing, and it's just really bad CGI. Like, I don't know what they were thinking. And he ends up being messy and starting the whole conflict. But the thing is, there would never have been a conflict had she not squirreled around in his brain. The witches started it. Like, it's their fault. Am I supposed to be full bad? No, they got what they deserved. You squirreled around in this dude's brain, which in turn endangered your children. And because y'all didn't really take the time to make sense of who you are to them, like, you know who the Jedi are. The Jedi have no idea who you were, and y'all were just so caged off, closed off. You decide to do some witchy juju, turn into some black smoke fart thing, and then make the child evaporate. So Soul's like, oh my god, Osha is in danger, because he's all like, I feel this connection to Osha, but he clearly can't tell the twins apart. Never mind the fact that by this time May already has that little tattoo on her forehead, but he's like, I have to save the child, so he doesn't know what's happening. She's turning into fart steam and the child is evaporating, so he takes his lightsaber and he stabs the witch and she dies. And as she's dying, she's like, I was gonna let you take Osha. I was gonna let her go with you. She wants to be a Jedi. It was so stupid. Oh my gosh, who wrote this? I should have gone to graduate school. I should have just went ahead and just got my master's in screenwriting. I studied screenwriting in college, and I didn't. I should have, because if this is the crap that gets work, I would be sitting on a cushion by now. I would be doing so well. I should have. I'm so mad at myself, because if this can get greenlit, oh God, I'd be stacked. it's, Black Mama Witch gets stabbed, May's all sad, and then the moment where they all dip down to check on her as she's dying and everyone's just standing around, like this moment is too chaotic for everyone to be still. And then Mama Coral's just standing there looking, and I'm like, your wife woman thing just got murdered and you're just standing there all cool, calm, and collected. Then she evaporates into black fart mist, and then all of a sudden we see Kilnaka, the Wookiee Jedi, and he's like all mind screwed up, kind of like Torben was, but to an extreme, and he's trying to kill Torben, and he's trying to kill Soul, and they're all fighting because the witches are messing with his head, and they're sitting off in the distance on some ledges talking about some or whatever it was they were doing, but their eyes were all messed up and they were swaying back and forth with a kind of little rhythm or whatever. And then Indara comes in to save the day because she was trying to like set all these boys straight anyway, because you had her Padawan over here, Torben, was just being stupid, talking about, I just want to go home, and she's like, chill the F out. And Soul was like, I feel a connection and a bond to Osha. I need her to be my Padawan. And it's just like, where is this connection coming from? Because these little girls are not good enough actresses to really portray this kind of connection or bond, and it just comes off as creepy. And they're really trying to play into this narrative that the Jedi are these kidnappers who steal children, really just trying to push that narrative. They want us to hate the Jedi, and they're trying to do this through Soul and really just kind of mess with us a little bit, and I just don't think it's working. I don't think it's quite working. It'd be one thing if this was fresh, brand new, original IP. We'd never heard of Star Wars before, but the fact is we have 45 years of canon. We have 45 years of content, and you think your little fan fiction on Disney Plus is just going to override all of that? The hubris. So Indara comes in to save the day, and she does her little force thing over his head to clear the witches out. But apparently this is how the witches die. Because remember, if you're from episode 3, Osha kind of looks down and sees all the witches laid out dead. And apparently this is how they died. This is how they died, y'all. So Indara is standing over Kilnaka trying to clear the witches out of his brain. And when she disconnects the Wi-Fi, they all die. She turned off Bluetooth and the witches just fell out. I kid you not. Like, really? Really? Oh, this was so bad. And then the episode ends pretty much the way the third one ended as well, like with Osha waking up screaming for her mama on the ship. That's how it ends. But it gets worse than that, because you're right, Savannah, the show ended. How the episode ended? Like, how could it get worse? How could it get worse? Oh, it got worse. Why? Because we get to the end credits. Now, again, 45 years of canon, 45 years of content, and Star Wars. There's something epic about the end credits of Star Wars because it's just beautiful music that's just, woo, it's a jolt, right? That's what we expect. We expect Star Wars music at the end credits. But they decided to do something different. And this is what's sad to me, because they really thought that whole power of one, power of two, power of many was going to catch on, that people were really going to like that people were going to just like rally ho with that. And it ended up becoming a meme. It ended up becoming something for them to feel embarrassed over. It became a joke. That entire episode is just the worst of the season. I don't think they anticipated people's reactions to that episode. They really thought that they could just push this agenda onto the masses and people just be okay with it. It's 2024, Hollywood. People don't care anymore. They're annoyed. They're over it. I don't know why y'all can't figure that out. Like, get connected to the real world again. You've lost it. But they really, really thought that episode would somehow resonate with people and they would just love it, because what they had Victoria Monet do, I believe that's her name, Victoria Monet do, was they had her write a song for the Acolyte called Power of Two, basically about the twins. And then instead of playing regular old Star Wars music at the end credits, they played this crappy R&B song. Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't know anything about this song. Apparently it's been out on Spotify since like mid-June. I had no idea. I didn't know anything about the song until the crackhead episode ends and then this music starts, and it just felt worse. It's like, what is this? This is so stupid. This is so dumb. What are we doing here? And I feel bad for her because she didn't ask for all that, but I imagine she's not going to want to have much to do with Star Wars ever again. But they really took that crappy little slogan and decided we're going to create a song out of it, and people are just going to love it. Oh gosh. And in terms of like what makes this episode good or bad, I mean, it's the same thing. I don't know how this got greenlit. I want to be a fly on the wall. I want to go back in time and be a fly on the wall in the meetings when they were showing off the scripts and they were reviewing things. They really look at these scripts and say, you know what? This is great. This is good. Let's go for it. Let's do it. There's no way, because it's still terrible writing. It's still terrible acting. The story still doesn't make any more sense. Yeah, we finally got a big reveal for that big Jedi secret, and it was just a letdown. It was so boring. It was like, that's it? That's it. The lesbian space witches instigated a fight unnecessarily, and people died as a result. And then there's a part that I'm sure Soul probably feels the most guilty in, where he had to make a choice. He could only save one of them. He could save May or he could save Osha. And they ended up on this bridge that cracked in half, and they're standing in the middle of said bridge, still as a rock, reaching out for one another, right? Reaching out for one another, while Soul is standing there trying to hold them up, and he's able to hold both of these little ledges up with the force. I have to find a picture. Hold on. All right, so this is it. This is the ultimate moment where he has to make a choice between Osha or May, and they're literally just standing there still while the whole place is falling apart, just standing there with their arms out, reaching out for one another. So incredibly, who directed this? Who really said, let's just have them stand there like statues, reaching out for one another, while Mr. over here in the middle is struggling to save them with the force? The fact of the matter is, homie was a master at the force, right, at this point, so he literally could have just snatched one of the girls up with the force and then got the other one. But instead, he drops May. He allows his one hand that's holding the force on May to drop, and then he runs and saves Osha. So yeah, that's the guilt he's carrying, is that he could have saved May but couldn't. He had to make a choice, so he saved Osha. And his big guilt is that he was basically, he killed Black Mama Witch, Mother Anastasia, by mistake, because he misinterpreted what was happening. And we don't even know what was happening. We don't know if Mother Anastasia was trying to save May, if she was trying to kill May. We don't know. He saw something that looked nefarious. He saw what looked like a child to be in trouble, and her mother to be the culprit. So he acted. I mean, in a court of law, that's justifiable homicide. The whole thing is just really, really dumb. And I don't know what they're going to do. This is supposed to be the penultimate episode, the second to last one. This is the one that's supposed to be the big banger. Almost better than the finale. This is the one where it's supposed to just really just lead us up into that finale, get us on the edge of our seats. Like, episode 6 definitely didn't do that. All they had was her breathing in a mask. And now we get this extra flashback episode. There's so much filler in this season, it's ridiculous. I mean, we've had maybe 1 or 2 episodes that were actually story, and the rest have just been filler. Like, they're trying to like fill in the time, literally. And I don't know, like, what's the end game here? That's my big question. What is the end game? Where are we going with this? Like, what's the goal? Make it make sense to me. Like, I'm trying to sit here and think, what could the ending possibly look like? What? He divulged the secret to Osha, and she's like, I don't want to be around you anymore. I'm going to go to the dark side. That's just going to be dumb as I don't know what, because there's nothing in Osha's personality that suggests she's that manipulative. She's that vulnerable. She's that gullible. She's that easily manipulated. There's nothing in her personality that would suggest that, and that's because they haven't given us any kind of personality with respect to Osha or May. There's nothing about her that we don't know what her vulnerabilities are. What makes Osha vulnerable? We don't know. What? Cute naked Asian guy coming out of the water? You and everybody else, honey. We don't know about her vulnerabilities. We don't know what makes her strong. We don't know her weaknesses. We don't know what her kryptonite is. We don't know anything about Osha other than what they put in front of us. And other than she can't travel from place to place without being unconscious. Like, what could they possibly give us in this finale with respect to these twins that would be even remotely interesting? I mean, what even is the story? What is the point of the Acolyte? What is the point? What is the story here? I don't get it. At this point, I'm realizing there really isn't much of a story here. There's nothing here. It's just a void. It's completely empty. What is it? Where are we going with this? I can't believe this was the second to last episode. This is not your typical penultimate episode. Usually you have a big something happening in your second to last episode that leads you into the finale. This does not lead us into the finale. Who wrote this? How did we get here? And I have so many questions. Why did Torben kill himself? How is what he did so awful that he would rather choose death than talk to the council? Are they going to explain that? Is there someone on the council he's afraid of? And even then, what do we care? We met Torben for 5 minutes. And then when we met him as a young kid, he was such a freaking brat and he was so weak-minded. Anyways, did you watch The Acolyte? What did you think of episode 7? Are you ready for this to be done? I'm ready. I can't believe I actually made it this far, because I wasn't so sure, but I made it this far, and we're gonna see it until the end and give it our best, the old college try. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to me rant. Let me know your thoughts and your questions about episode 7 and all the things. I love you. You guys are amazing, and I will see you next time.